Decades of speculation, countless theories, endless maps, and whispered legends all pointed to one location. And today, Rick Lagina finally confirmed it. A massive treasure, estimated at $110 million, has been found near Smith's Cove. The announcement sent shockwaves across the treasure-hunting world. Journalists scrambled, historians rechecked every diary and ledger, and amateur hunters glued their eyes to live feeds, all waiting for a glimpse of history in the making. It wasn't just a win for Oak Island. It was a vindication of obsession, risk, and relentless pursuit. Rick, standing amidst the chaos, reflected quietly on the decades spent chasing shadows, nearly giving up countless times, surviving collapses, floods, and public doubt. And now, finally, it was real. Before we dive in, smash that like button and subscribe, because what Rick Lagina just revealed will change Oak Island forever. Every inch of Smith's Cove had been scrutinized, traced, and retread for centuries, yet it always held its secrets tightly. Past expeditions had come close, some tantalizingly near, others disasters that left holes in the island and holes in the hearts of those who dared dig. But no one had ever struck gold like this, not until now. Rick and his team had gone back to the beginning, poring over old maps stained with water damage, letters faded with age, and cryptic journal entries that hinted at what might lie beneath. They studied centuries-old engineering drawings, trying to decode the methods of those who had hidden this treasure so meticulously. Folklore whispered of tunnels, booby traps, and a defense system that would punish the unprepared. And the cove itself seemed almost alive with warning. The tides could shift without notice, the hidden flood tunnels threatened to collapse, and even the ground underfoot seemed reluctant to give way. But innovation met history at last. Ground-penetrating radar cut through decades of doubt like a knife, revealing anomalies beneath the soil. Sonar mapping illuminated voids and cavities, sketching outlines of structures no one had ever confirmed existed. The breakthrough didn't feel immediate. It built slowly, methodically, each scan and measurement nudging the team closer to what had been whispered about for centuries. And then finally, the first signs appeared. Gold fragments, small, almost unassuming, sparkled amidst the muck and silt. At first, disbelief hung in the air. Could this really be what it seemed? The fragments weren't just metal. They were a promise, a signal that the legends were true, that all the maps and diaries had been pointing to reality. As the team dug deeper, the sheer scale of the discovery began to take shape. Tension rose with every shovelful of earth removed, every steel support strained against the weight of centuries. Hidden chambers and cavities hinted that this treasure was not a single stash, but a layered, deliberate construction designed to endure time, tides, and human curiosity. Historical artifacts, coins stamped with unfamiliar insignias, tools corroded by age, and remnants of structures appeared alongside the gold, confirming that whoever hid this treasure had invested decades, maybe centuries, of thought and planning into its concealment. Each discovery told a story older than the island itself, a story that intertwined European explorers, secret societies, and perhaps even figures we thought belonged to myth rather than history. Even as excitement coursed through the team, Rick's demeanor remained cautiously measured. Optimism battled with the knowledge of the cove's treachery. Every step forward could trigger collapse or flood. The balance between celebration and caution was delicate. Equipment groaned under pressure. Mud and water threatened every excavation. And yet each fragment, each glint of gold, was a heartbeat closer to the treasure's full revelation. The air crackled with anticipation, not just for the wealth, but for the secrets the treasure carried, the lineage of those who hid it, the stories encoded in symbols on coins, and the techniques they used to protect their fortune. What began as a cautious scan of the area had now transformed into a methodical unearthing, a revelation that combined science and intuition. Every member of the team felt it, the awe of standing on ground where history and myth collided, where the soil underfoot had waited centuries to surrender its secrets. And yet, there was no time to pause. Momentum mattered, and in mining, in exploration, momentum is everything. Every moment of hesitation was a moment the tide, the tunnel, or the past could reclaim. Rick's decades-long obsession had trained him for this, knowing when to push, when to pull back, when to listen to the earth, and when to listen to instinct. As the first caches of gold were lifted, the atmosphere shifted from disbelief to cautious exhilaration. Historians peered over shoulders, tracing connections to old voyages and European explorers. Engineers examined the flood tunnels, trying to reverse engineer the centuries-old defensive systems. And for the team, every scoop of soil, every fragment, recovered, reinforced what they already suspected. The $110 million figure wasn't an exaggeration. This was a find that could rewrite Oak Island's story entirely, a treasure that validated decades of obsession, sacrifice, and near misses. And yet, even amidst the glittering promise of gold, the team felt the weight of centuries pressing down upon them. The island had tested them, shaped them, and forced a deep respect for its mysteries, and now each fragment of gold and artifact whispered stories older than anyone could have imagined. As they carefully examined the finds, it became clear that this was more than a financial windfall. It was a direct connection across time, a link to the minds and hands of those who had labored in secrecy to conceal their wealth and knowledge. The excitement of discovery gave way to meticulous observation, each coin, symbol, and relic demanding attention. What had first felt like the thrill of gold now revealed layers of history and intent. Among the treasure were pieces stamped with Templar symbols, artifacts hinting at European involvement centuries before modern explorers arrived. Each object was a thread connecting secretive operations, a puzzle embedded with intelligence, strategy, and foresight. Historians scrutinized the evidence, proposing links to clandestine societies, lost colonial expeditions, and orders that had crossed oceans carrying knowledge meant to remain hidden. Carbon dating and metallurgical analysis confirmed authenticity, silencing skeptics who doubted the find's legitimacy. Every discovery reinforced that the legends, once dismissed as myth, had been rooted in reality. The team's awe deepened, tempered by the responsibility of understanding the full story. This was not only treasure, it was history preserved beneath the sands and tides of Smith's Cove. As excavation continued, previously unknown flood tunnels were uncovered, twisting and curving beneath the ground like a hidden labyrinth. These tunnels were not accidental. They were sophisticated engineering designed specifically to protect the treasure. Each curve, each reinforced wall, suggested builders who had decades of planning and ingenuity behind them, challenging every assumption the team had made about Oak Island's creators. Rick's crew moved carefully, every step calculated, knowing a collapse could not only destroy centuries of history, but also endanger their lives. The tunnels themselves became clues, offering insights into secret methods used to safeguard wealth over generations, demonstrating that the treasure's protection was as important as its concealment. The tension was tangible. The treasure was no longer merely a prize to be claimed. It was a test of resilience intelligence, and courage. Every misstep could trigger a cascade of failure, and the team felt the island watching them, holding them accountable for every action. News of the find spread like wildfire. Headlines around the world proclaimed the discovery of an unprecedented $110 million treasure, drawing attention from media, historians, and amateur treasure hunters alike. But with fame came scrutiny. Skeptics emerged almost instantly, accusing the team of exaggeration, planting, or misrepresentation. Conspiracy theories bloomed on social media, each one more elaborate than the last, questioning the authenticity of coins, the accuracy of the maps, and even the team's motivations. Rick and his crew responded systematically, presenting verified evidence, meticulously documenting every artifact, and releasing scans, images, and reports to validate the find. Despite their efforts, the internet buzzed with speculation. What else might remain buried on Oak Island? Rumors of tunnels, hidden caches, and lost artifacts multiplied, feeding public fascination and raising expectations to almost unbearable heights. The pressure was immense. The team felt it in every glance, every question from reporters, every online post dissecting their every move. The excitement of discovery collided with the demands of transparency and historical accountability. Fame, fortune, and scrutiny became inseparable companions to the treasure. The public's obsession risked overshadowing the careful work of understanding the treasure's origin, its construction, and its significance. Yet the team pressed on, aware that each day in Smith's Cove brought new insights, not only about the gold, but about the people who had hidden it centuries ago. Each tunnel mapped, each artifact analyzed, and each coin catalogued revealed more of a story that had been deliberately concealed, a story waiting for the right moment to be understood. Even the air around the excavation seemed charged, as if the cove itself recognized the significance of the work. The tunnels whispered of clever traps and structural genius, each turn reflecting centuries of protective foresight. The artifacts, some delicate and centuries old, spoke volumes about the reach and influence of the people who had laid claim to this wealth. Rick's team found themselves balancing exhilaration with caution, knowing that every action could either unlock new knowledge or destroy irreplaceable history. The interplay between the team's modern technology and the ingenuity of the island's original architects became a dance of discovery, requiring strategy, patience, and courage. The treasure's composition told stories of global trade, exploration, and secret alliances. Rare coins traced routes from Europe to North America. Symbolic carvings suggested affiliations with orders whose very existence had been questioned. Layer upon layer of history was encoded into what might have otherwise been dismissed as mere gold. Every finding reinforced the theory that Oak Island had not been a random burial site, but a deliberate, purpose-built fortress of wealth, knowledge, and secrecy. Understanding the depth of that design demanded more than excavation. It demanded interpretation, deduction, and respect for centuries of planning. Rick's team worked through sleepless nights, alternating between awe and calculation. Each new passage, each newly uncovered artifact, deepened both their excitement and their wariness. One misstep in the tunnels could trigger a catastrophic collapse, but each successful retrieval reinforced the genius of those who had engineered this hidden world. The treasure was proving to be not only a test of wealth, but of intellect, teamwork, and endurance. The island challenged them to think like those who had built it, to anticipate hazards and decode intentions buried beneath layers of earth and time. Public fascination intensified as details leaked. Crowds gathered near Smith's Cove, eager for a glimpse of history in motion. Live streams, social media posts, and news coverage magnified every move, every discovery, and every hypothesis. The team had to balance security with transparency, knowing that the fame brought both validation and risk. Misinterpretation was everywhere. Theories ranged from plausible historical connections to outright fantasy, but all of them underscored a singular truth. The world had never seen anything quite like this. The treasure's enormity became increasingly clear as excavation revealed more layers. Gold caches, coins, and artifacts weren't scattered randomly. They were arranged with precision, implying deliberate concealment to endure generations. Some areas suggested deliberate traps, designed to deter thieves or untrained hands, while other sections hinted at methods of long-term preservation and secrecy. Every discovery added complexity to the narrative, emphasizing that this was a multi-dimensional puzzle with historical, engineering, and financial significance intertwined. Rick's measured optimism kept the team grounded, balancing excitement with caution. Each coin, each fragment of gold, each symbol decoded reminded them of the stakes, not only of the treasure itself, but of the legacy they were now stewarding. The historical magnitude of the find grew heavier with each passing hour, each tunnel explored, and every artifact catalogued. The treasure was not simply a payoff for years of work. It was a living history lesson, a challenge to understand intentions, ingenuity, and ambition spanning centuries. The interplay between discovery and danger never ceased. Tunnels could collapse, equipment could fail, and the island's unpredictable conditions meant that every day was a test of skill and resolve. Yet the team pressed forward, methodically following every clue and anomaly, knowing that careful observation might reveal what had eluded generations before them. And then, after days of meticulous work, the island finally yielded the next secret. A previously undetected underground chamber revealed itself, as if the cove had been holding its breath, waiting for the right hands to uncover it. The entrance was subtle, almost invisible beneath layers of earth, silt, and debris, yet the careful, patient excavation had revealed a doorway to a world untouched for centuries. As the team stepped inside, the scale of the discovery became undeniable. Massive chests, intricately sealed, gleamed faintly under the flashlight beams, hinting at the full depth of the treasure they had been uncovering. Each chest contained layers of coins, rare artifacts, and objects whose craftsmanship spoke of masters long forgotten. Every curve and mark, a deliberate imprint of skill and intention. The air was thick with centuries of secrecy, dust settling like a veil over history, guarding the stories waiting to be told. The team's careful persistence had paid off. They were now stepping directly into a hidden world, one that connected every fragment, tunnel, and symbol they had studied into a cohesive, astonishing reality. The chamber itself was more than a hiding place. It was a fortress of knowledge and defense. Layers of booby traps were embedded throughout, a sophisticated combination of structural engineering and cunning design. Planks that gave way to false floors, pressure plates that triggered collapses, and hidden channels for water drainage all suggested builders who had anticipated not just thieves, but the relentless curiosity of generations to come. Each discovery raised the stakes, transforming the hunt from simple excavation to a test of intellect, strategy, and nerve. The team's excitement was tempered by caution. One misstep could erase centuries of careful concealment or turn triumph into catastrophe. Inside the chamber, The team uncovered letters, maps, and journals, documents that hinted at other undiscovered caches across Oak Island. Handwritten annotations in faded ink suggested routes, instructions, and perhaps warnings left by those who had buried the wealth. The writings were fragmented, cryptic, and challenging to interpret, but each fragment deepened the mystery, revealing a network of treasure deliberately dispersed, layers within layers, meant to challenge and protect. As Rick and his crew carefully documented the finds, it became clear that this chamber was only one piece of a far larger puzzle, one that might extend far beyond the cove, hinting at a scale and ingenuity that defied previous assumptions. Amidst the dust, gold, and historical treasures, Rick found himself reflecting on the long path that had led here. He remembered past failures and near misses, moments when hope seemed fleeting, when collapses or miscalculations threatened to end the search permanently. The memories of mentors lost to time, theories discarded too soon, and countless nights spent poring over maps and journals returned in vivid clarity. Each past disappointment now seemed like preparation for this very moment. Each setback a lesson that had sharpened intuition, patience, and resolve. The team, too, felt the weight of shared history, the bonds forged through exhaustion, risk, and shared triumphs. The find validated not only their efforts, but the persistence and obsession that had fueled decades of exploration. Rick's reflection extended beyond personal satisfaction. The treasure was more than gold. It was a window into centuries of cultural, political, and economic history. Each coin, symbol, and artifact told a story of trade, secrecy, and human ambition. The impact reached far beyond Oak Island, with implications for historians, economists, and governments. The team began to grasp the broader significance. They were not just uncovering wealth, but uncovering a narrative that could reshape understanding of colonial trade, European influence, and secret societies that had operated in the shadows of recorded history. Financially, the treasure was staggering. Experts meticulously calculated the worth, combining the weight of gold, the rarity of coins, and the historical value of artifacts. The estimate of $110 million seemed conservative as each chest was opened and catalogued, revealing pieces whose individual value rivaled entire collections in museums. This brought a host of practical considerations: how to preserve the integrity of the treasure, how to balance public interest with protection, and how to navigate the inevitable economic pressures. Museums, private collectors, and even governments now had stakes in what had long been considered a legend, and each entity would bring scrutiny, regulations, and competing agendas. Ethical dilemmas surfaced as the team weighed ownership and stewardship against personal gain. Oak Island had been a puzzle for centuries, and now that the secret was partially revealed, questions arose about what should be shared, how it should be displayed, and which institutions could be trusted with pieces of history that carried enormous cultural and monetary value. Every decision carried weight. Mishandling artifacts could destroy historical context. Mismanaging access could create conflict, and failing to balance transparency with security could invite theft or exploitation. Rick found himself navigating a complex web of responsibilities, balancing media exposure, investor interest, and historical integrity. The media frenzy intensified as each new discovery was documented. Photographs, videos, and verified reports circulated, and the story captured public imagination worldwide. The treasure's size, sophistication, and historical depth created headlines and debates, with commentators and experts speculating on what might remain undiscovered. Rick's team had to act quickly yet meticulously, ensuring that evidence of the find was preserved and validated for historians and the public alike, while simultaneously maintaining safety and operational efficiency. The scrutiny created tension, but it also reinforced the importance of their work. They were not just retrieving gold, they were reconstructing history, telling a story buried for centuries, and offering insights into human ingenuity, risk, and ambition. As they continued cataloging artifacts and mapping the chamber, it became evident that the $110 million estimate was only the beginning. Layers of gold and treasures were intertwined with documents and relics that offered insight into past expeditions and protective strategies. The ingenuity of the chamber's creators was staggering, demonstrating a level of foresight and engineering that challenged modern understanding. For the team, each discovery reinforced the dual reality of reward and risk, as excitement for what lay ahead was matched by the need for precision, caution, and respect for the historical context. Rick's leadership became a guiding force amidst the frenzy of activity. His experience, intuition, and deep understanding of Oak Island's history allowed the team to proceed strategically, balancing excavation speed with careful preservation. The shared camaraderie and history of the crew created cohesion, ensuring that while each member was driven by personal curiosity and ambition, collective safety and meticulous documentation remained priorities. Every moment in the chamber reinforced the delicate balance between uncovering treasure and safeguarding history. Public and academic interest surged as discoveries multiplied. Rare European coins hinted at unknown trade routes, symbols suggested connections to secretive societies, and artifacts challenged long-held historical narratives. The treasure had evolved beyond a financial windfall. It had become a catalyst for research, reinterpretation, and debate. Museums and historians recognized the potential to rewrite history, while the team grappled with the responsibility of ensuring every interpretation was accurate, verifiable, and preserved for future generations. Every observation, scan, and catalogued artifact reminded them that their role was more than excavation. They were custodians of centuries-old knowledge. That responsibility, combined with meticulous study of the terrain and recovered documents, soon revealed that the $110 million treasure might be only a fraction of a far larger network hidden across Oak Island. Subtle anomalies in the soil, faint depressions in the terrain, and cryptic notations in journals suggested caches deliberately dispersed to challenge generations of seekers. Maps were cross-referenced, tunnels examined, and survey data recalculated. Each step pointed to wealth still lying beneath layers of earth and water, waiting to be uncovered. The team debated strategy intensely: press on and risk destabilizing existing discoveries, or pause to preserve what had been revealed. The stakes were high. Every decision could reveal more treasure or trigger collapses that might bury it forever. Artifacts continued to challenge assumptions, some contradicting established historical theories, hinting at previously unknown influences and connections. Every fragment, carved symbol, and hidden compartment amplified the complexity of Oak Island's story, suggesting that this was not a single cache, but part of an intricate system of concealment. The team's methodical documentation, combined with historical research and modern technology, created a feedback loop of discovery, hypothesis, and verification. Each insight became a clue, every measurement a thread, linking past ingenuity with present exploration. In this way, the excitement of discovery and the weight of responsibility merged. Public fascination, academic scrutiny, and historical significance were no longer separate from the team's work. They were the impetus for deeper, more careful investigation. The mysteries of Oak Island were revealing themselves incrementally, layer by layer, and the team understood that their task was not simply to collect gold, but to decode a centuries-spanning narrative, ensuring that every piece of evidence was interpreted with precision, preserved with care, and contextualized within the vast, interconnected puzzle that Oak Island had long concealed. As news of the expanding discovery reached the global stage, attention intensified. Historians, academics, amateur adventurers, and treasure enthusiasts all turned their eyes towards Smith's Cove, drawn by the promise of riches and the allure of centuries-old secrets. The find ignited debate and controversy. Legal challenges emerged, questioning ownership, excavation rights, and the obligations of those responsible for preserving cultural heritage. Rick and his team navigated these disputes carefully, balancing moral responsibility with operational necessity, aware that every decision would be scrutinized by authorities, media, and the public alike. Media coverage, often sensationalized, amplified the drama. Reports exaggerated dangers, hinted at hidden booby traps, and speculated wildly on undiscovered hoards, inflating Oak Island's legend while blurring the line between fact and fiction. Public fascination surged, with social media and news cycles feeding one another, creating a feedback loop of intrigue, speculation, and obsession that elevated the island's status from mysterious locale to global icon of hidden wealth and historical intrigue. Within this whirlwind, the team's work continued, focused but aware of the growing stakes. Excavations revealed new chambers, subtle cavities, and faint signs of additional construction beneath the cove, each discovery hinting at centuries of careful planning and deliberate concealment. The balance between exploration and preservation became increasingly delicate. Every artifact catalogued, every map scanned, and every tunnel reinforced the realization that Oak Island's secrets extended beyond a single treasure, forming a web of wealth, history, and human ingenuity. Rick's leadership was crucial, guiding the crew through technical, moral, and logistical challenges, ensuring that the integrity of the site was maintained while the pace of discovery remained relentless. The treasure itself continued to redefine perceptions of Oak Island. Rare coins traced routes of European exploration previously unknown. Artifacts suggested connections with secret societies, and maps hinted at caches strategically placed to survive centuries of neglect, flooding, and human interference. Historical narratives began to shift under the weight of these findings, compelling scholars and enthusiasts alike to re-evaluate what they thought they knew about trade, colonization, and clandestine networks. Museums and private collectors expressed interest, while governments scrutinized claims, creating a complex web of negotiations and ethical considerations. Decisions about ownership, display, and preservation were no longer theoretical. They carried real-world implications for history, finance, and law. Amid the external pressures, the team grappled with internal reflection. The personal costs of decades-long obsession, the sleepless nights, financial strain, physical danger, and emotional toll were weighed against the monumental achievement of uncovering history itself. Bonds forged through risk, shared hardship, and relentless pursuit were solidified in the shadow of these discoveries. Each team member recognized the profound significance of their work. They were not merely treasure hunters, they were custodians of legacy, responsible for interpreting, protecting, and sharing fragments of a story that spanned centuries. Technological innovation remained integral to ongoing exploration. Ground-penetrating radar, sonar mapping, and digital modeling allowed the team to visualize subterranean networks and identify potential caches without disturbing fragile structures. Combined with historical research, these tools revealed patterns that might otherwise have remained invisible, suggesting connections between chambers, tunnels, and surface anomalies that indicated a master plan of concealment and defense. The sophistication of the builders became increasingly apparent, and each revelation underscored the intelligence, foresight, and determination required to hide and protect wealth over generations. The treasure's broader implications extended into cultural history. Symbols on coins, inscriptions on artifacts, and construction techniques hinted at traditions, influences, and networks spanning continents. Each layer of discovery added depth to understanding the forces and motivations that shaped Oak Island. The team began to piece together the narratives of those who had hidden wealth, using the material evidence to reconstruct strategies, alliances, and even rivalries. In doing so, they transformed the Cove from a simple excavation site into a historical archive encoded in gold, stone, and earth. As discoveries accumulated, public fascination intensified. Crowds gathered near Smith's Cove, journalists reported daily, and social media erupted with speculation and commentary. The legend of Oak Island expanded beyond local intrigue into a worldwide phenomenon. Every tunnel revealed, every artifact displayed, and every historical connection uncovered fed a narrative of ingenuity, secrecy, and persistence that captured imaginations and inspired endless discussion. The team's methodical work, while rigorous, existed against a backdrop of myth-making and speculation. A tension between empirical evidence and legendary storytelling that heightened the drama of the discovery. Ownership and stewardship remained critical concerns. Rick's team had to navigate ethical dilemmas surrounding cultural heritage, financial interests, and public access. Decisions about cataloging, preservation, and disclosure required meticulous attention. Every misstep could compromise historical context or ignite disputes with legal, academic, or governmental stakeholders. These challenges were compounded by the treasure's scale and the complexity of Oak Island's subterranean systems, demanding strategic thinking, diplomacy, and foresight. Even as the team documented their finds, the realization grew that the treasure was part of a larger, interconnected system. Subtle clues, structural anomalies, fragmentary maps, and hidden passages pointed toward undiscovered chambers and additional caches. Oak Island's design suggested a deliberate strategy, with multiple layers of wealth, historical evidence, and protection interwoven in a network meant to endure centuries. Each revelation fueled speculation about the ultimate secret the island might hold, reinforcing the notion that the $110 million discovery was only the beginning. The public and scholarly attention continued to escalate, amplifying Oak Island's legendary status. What had been a localized curiosity became a global phenomenon, blurring lines between historical fact and myth. Interpretations of artifacts, coins, and tunnels generated debate, fostering new theories about colonial expeditions, secret societies, and the motivations of the island's architects. The treasure's discovery transformed the narrative of Oak Island, inspiring curiosity, speculation, and research that would extend far beyond the team's direct efforts. Rick Lagina's legacy solidified with each layer uncovered. His decades of perseverance, meticulous research, and personal dedication positioned him as the discoverer of a historic fortune, redefining what was possible in treasure hunting. Team members reflected on the personal sacrifices required to reach this point, the physical strain, emotional tension, and relentless pursuit of a dream. But the triumph outweighed the cost. Oak Island would never be viewed the same way again, its mysteries partially revealed, yet still tantalizingly unfinished. Even as the team catalogued and secured the treasure, hints of additional caches lingered in maps, tunnels, and artifacts, leaving the story unresolved, the ultimate secret still elusive, and audiences, historians, and adventurers alike eager for what might come next.